I know I'm an odd duck. I've been told. Brian has even said it. I don't remember whether it was duck. It was something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that true?
You're quacking me up, but yes, you are an odd duck.
Yes. Well, I'm bringing Brian White on today because I like to talk about the macro.
Polo.
What?
Polo. Oh, macro. Oh, I misunderstood. Go ahead. I might still know a few things. I thought we were going to be discussing games children play in swimming pools, but go ahead. We'll do it your way.
Yes. Well, so there's a whole bunch of folks out there who are providing you with lots of interesting information out there that have left out what I think is a key component, and that is what is going on with the economy. Or, as it has been famously said, it's about the money, stupid.
That's so close. That's so close.
So Brian, I want to talk to you about the macro, and you said that you do follow the macro. What Elon made a big deal about the macro and drove the world crazy because he was so sad. He was so unhappy about the possible macro environment that we're going into next year, even believing we might have a big recession. And what say you?
Well, I think the recession fears are overblown. And to say, Elon as a time traveler is better at predicting tech than the economy. He's been very lucky with some of his economic predictions. He's been accidentally right. So, for example, the decision to say, we're not going to let you buy out your lease on your Model 3 back in 2018. No, because he said no, because in 3 years, we want them all as robotaxis. Well, 2021 comes and robotaxi ain't ready. I don't know if you recall, but it wasn't. And instead, these cars coming off lease, what do you do with them? You sell them again for another big, fat, juicy margin, which is exactly what has happened. And that accidentally was the right thing.
Yes.
So could there be a recession? Sure. The question, though, is could there be a depression? And the answer appears to be no. I have not seen anyone predicting that apart from conspiracy theorists who do not have the best track record. So the first thing to remember about macro is we're all in it together. So unless you think the global auto sales of 80 million are going to significantly be reduced in the next year or two, it doesn't matter because there's so much market share left to capture. It will be captured.
And in my lifetime, I only remember one time when we had that drastic drop. And nobody else is going to know this because they wouldn't have been paying attention. I was a manufacturer at the time, and the LA Times headline said, manufacturing depression. There was a 25% drop in manufacturing activity in 1 month.
Wow.
And that was a year after 9/11. Okay. And cars were part of it. A 25% drop in 1 month. It was a very unusual, very unique situation, and just manufacturing fell off a cliff. Everybody felt it. I did. I was fortunate to have made some cutbacks recently because a consultant told me I should make some cutbacks. And so we weathered it. If we hadn't made those cutbacks, I would have lost my company that year. So it's rare, though. We don't normally get 10% drops or 20% drops in car manufacturing or shipments, even in recessionary situations. So I go with you on that. It's probably not going to be that kind of a drop off. And if it was, it would be worse for everybody else than it would for Tesla.
And that's the thing. When rates go up, it impacts affordability. Well, good news, you've got the best value in electric vehicles. Well, maybe they'll go back to ICE cars. In most of the world, that's not going to be an option. And manufacturers can't pivot that quickly. It's not like they can, flip the widget switch and make different ones next month. These are quite complicated machines with a lengthy supply chain. And in recessionary times, there's a flight to value. And if you're the company that already presents the best value, I'd be more worried about Land Rover. I'd be more worried about Jeep. I'd be more worried about uh, three-wheel convertibles like the Slingshot or the, those kinds of cars, where they are entirely discretionary purchases. If you need a car, you buy a car. That's it. And when it comes time to buy a car, you can look at what markets the Model 3 pulls from. Yeah, it pulls from the BMW 3 Series, the Mercedes 3 Series, but it also pulls from Camry and Accord and Corolla. So if a recession is coming, Tesla's uniquely positioned to capitalize on it, just like they were uniquely positioned to capitalize on some of the previous unforeseen trends. So that's part of the macro. That is what happens to one happens to all, and Tesla's slightly better positioned. Go ahead.
So let me just interrupt you right there, because you really raised an important issue that I've been thinking about for the last couple of days. We've seen the American market, the competition, not even be able to rise to the level that they are in Europe. We've seen the Ford and General Motors just have absolutely no luck, if you will, no success at all in the US market. But now we're seeing Mercedes, the EQE, dying on the vine. What do you think's going on that what is different about the US market that the European cars aren't selling? The ones that are even made in America, the ones that the European makers who are making the cars in America, so they're subject to all the same discounts. What in the heck's going on that Tesla is continuing to be just a far away the winner in the EV space? I mean, to the point where the other guys are failing, not just not doing well, failing.
Right. So you and I sell the same product in the same market, but I have a 20, 25, 30% margin, and you have a 5% or 0% margin. Tomorrow we need to boost sales. Can you cut your prices? I mean, a little bit. If you look at the value proposition between like a Kia or Hyundai or even an ID4 versus the Tesla, it is not the same car. It's not the same price. It's not the same buyer anymore. And okay, well, we'll cut prices. Can you? There's only so much you can go. There's a maximum pain amount, and those other companies aren't able to do it. Tesla, having worked so hard to drive down costs, has made them capable of selling a better car at the same price and with a margin. Now, if Volkswagen was selling the ID4 with a 20% margin, they'd sell more of them. They would be motivated to keep those things flying out the door, and they're just not, because it doesn't make sense.
But now, okay, that explains how they're not getting the initial sale, but they're also not getting any brand loyalty on these EVs. People that are buying these cars, if they sell them, they're going back to ICE cars, or saying that they'll go back to ICE cars, as opposed to even going to another EV like a Tesla. They're completely discouraged in their EV purchase.
The charging situation is completely different in other countries. In the US, you've got a two-tiered system where the royalty gets to use superchargers and the peasants get to use electrify some parts of America sometimes. I think that's the name of the company.
Yeah.
But in Europe, any car can charge at any station, with a few exceptions of the Leaf, which still has a CHAdeMO on the older models. You got that one, you bet on the wrong horse. It's unfortunate. But any new EV can charge at any station, and they all work. It's a competitive market. Charging companies want your business. In China, same thing. Everybody uses the same handle. It just works. In the US, it's very much a two-tiered system, with one tier being genuinely terrible. There are exceptions, but the fact that you have to say sometimes it doesn't suck tells you how bad it sucks. So that makes When Secretary Granholm and Buttigieg's team did their cross-country trek in EVs, they forgot to bring a Tesla.
I know.
And their takeaway was, man, this is terrible. And at the very least, hopefully that'll motivate them to do something about it other than complain.
Well, they did. They did. Yeah, they're doing something about it. They've worked it out to where those companies that are building these horrible units will get to build more on my dollar, on my tax dollar.
It's crazy. It sounded like a good thing when they said, look, we're going to make sure that everybody building these chargers has to include Tesla. And the flip side is, yeah, but now that everyone's going to be using Tesla anyway, I think the stations still have to have CCS, which is... And
they're using the same junk in these units, and they're using the same management teams that haven't been able to produce products that work and keep them working.
On the plus side, in the IRA, it says there is an uptime requirement in order to qualify. So that addresses some of the shortfalls that we saw with the compliance that was the Electrify America rollout.
We can hope.
Well, it's designed to. Whether or not it succeeds is always a second matter. But Electrify America never worked because there was never a requirement to work. That was never even a consideration. We're required to install X number of chargers. And my friend, installed they have been. Anybody want to buy the company? Anybody? Oh, wow. We built garbage and nobody wants it. That's so weird.
All right. So we have a situation where if we do have a recession, then everybody's on the same level in terms of having to deal with higher interest rates or whatever that might be. They're all going to be dealing with the same issues in terms of people not having enough money to spend. All those things are going to be true for everybody across the board. And in the meantime, at least in the US, the competition isn't even close to competing. So in a rough market, Tesla will be in a better position than anybody else. What do you think is going to happen with inflation in the next 6 months? Do you have feelings on that?
Yes, a couple of things. I'm gonna back up and say all the companies are in it are on the same boat. So whether the tide rises or falls, all those companies are going to rise and fall together. The reason, if you're looking at this from an investment perspective, you could say the market's going to be tough. That may be true, but which of these investment choices would you choose regardless of the market? If the whole thing rises or falls together, I still want to be on the one that is the most successful. And in terms of people, even in recessions, I've lived through a couple. I was in the 90s. I went through, there was a recession and I was looking for work at the time, and it was very, very difficult for me. I didn't know anyone else who was suffering the way I was, because a recession doesn't affect everybody equally. So for the most part, these things come and go. And within a very short amount of time, people can't even remember what years the recessions were in unless it personally affected them. And most people were not personally affected by any of them. So then you ask about inflation over the next 6 months, and really, let's say the next 6 years. Inflation is whatever it is. There's nothing any of us can do about it. When tracking inflation, not all things move at the same pace, let alone the same direction. So, for example, I was showing my kids how much televisions used to cost. I looked up a 1955 21-inch color RCA, the Cadillac of its day. It was an $800 TV in 1955. That's like $9,000 today. Who would buy it? And then you get it and you're like, wow, that's beautiful. That's really impressive. But TVs are a bad measurement because they are discretionary. I saw a video recently where a gentleman went to Costco and he was showing, food prices are only up 5% this year. Here are 5 anecdotes showing one specific item that happens to be more this year. What he didn't show was all the items that had gone down. So some things go up and some things go down. Parts for cars have gone down. Despite inflation, parts are cheaper now than they were a year, 2, maybe even 3 years ago. We are back to or below pre-COVID levels. When it comes to, so That's huge. The batteries are the biggest expense. Those are cheaper than ever. So despite all this inflation, by a lot. So despite all this inflation, the cost to build an electric car for, I'm going to say, every manufacturer, or certainly nearly every manufacturer, is less than it's ever been before. That means electric cars are counter-inflationary so far. So if that is not necessarily as true for an internal combustion vehicle, where the majority of the cost is all the stamping, really, the actual assembly. The biggest costs are that and the drivetrain. And those are not dropping the way other parts are, the way your blinkers and tubes and hoses are. So the likelihood of your EVs getting cheaper to build over the next 6 months to 6 years is about 100%. And the likelihood of your internal combustion car manufacturing costs going down by more than 5 or 10% over the next 6 months to 6 years is approaching zero. So I would ask you, which of those two philosophies would you rather invest in? And for me, it's going to be the one where the price remains the same or goes up, but the cost to manufacture it goes down. So Randy, I am giving you all kinds of insights that no one else has been talking about.
I was thinking exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
Is that why I keep having you on the show?
No, it's my charm and my good looks.
Oh, I thought it was the tree.
Yeah.
The tree that never grows.
I'm funny and I'm attractive, and it makes sense because I got my good looks from my mom and my good humor from, I assume, the ice cream man.
And, I actually drove a good humor truck, by the way. I might have been your no. So Brian, before we shut this whole thing down, you got to talk about your car. You're going to get your Model Y. You're going to
in just a few days.
Wow.
In just a few days. And I managed to get my delivery date scheduled during a Tesla Southwest Washington Owners Club event that's being held at the very delivery center. So this Saturday at the Vancouver Tesla Center from 10 to 2 is the Southwest Washington Owners Club meetup. It's open to the public. Come join us. Come hang out. Come visit. And at noon during that event, this Saturday, I am scheduled to take delivery. So if you want to see a kid in a candy shop, I guess go to the mall, because there won't be any of that. But I will be taking delivery of my very first Tesla. I'm very excited. Well, I should be. It's been 3 years I've been doing this. I need to join the club. You do. Be sure to take your soapbox along with you so that you can, cajole the crowd. Oh, I thought you meant my Apple box so I could appear to be of normal height. I got nothing to say. I'm it's a very unusual situation, but I'm speechless. Oh, we have so much fun on these. Have a blast on Saturday. I'm sure everybody is going to be excited to see your video that I know you won't make about that entire event, but we'll be looking forward to that next week. Yeah. All right, Brian. Hey, as always, great to have you on board. And until next time, it's been great talking to you guys out there, and sometimes even to Brian. Is somebody going to join Patreon? All right, I'm going to make a deal. This is going to be, I've done this once before. It worked a little bit. Actually got a lot of people joining Patreon the last 2 weeks. But the last 2 days, not a single soul. So let's get you up on Patreon. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you one free audiobook. You can have 2 free if you want, or you can have 1 free audiobook and the Cybertruck bottle opener. How's that? 1 and 1. Okay. If you join at the $10 level, not at the $5 level. If you join at the $5 level, you just get the 1 book. Now, if you're completely new to the channel, this is a bottle opener. It is a refrigerator magnet. It is 3 millimeter thick, stainless steel, really, really tough. Comes in a very cool magnetic box that makes it a great gift item. It's got all kinds of people now buying them as gifts.
as a result of the fact that I have so many people that want to buy them as gifts, and they're putting in these larger orders. I do have it all down. I think I put it all down below. I'll have to double check and make sure that it's up to date. They're normally $25 a piece. You get 2 for $45. You get 3 for $60. Okay. You get 100 for $210, and you get 200 for $400. Gets you all the way down to $20 a piece. If you are out of the country, I need you to add another $20 to that for freight, whichever one of those ones you pick. And then if you are, and then please let me know camo or regular. And of course you can mix and match if you buy quantities, however you want to set that up. So is there anything else I have left for you tonight? I think I've said it all. I have enjoyed speaking with you yet again.
Click the link below to get your paperback, Kindle, or audiobook now.